artists are the mirrors of society. We are the reflections of what's happening in society.
There's no need to keep running away from the continent. We want to stay in the continent and fight it.
I'm a mother in risk, so anytime anything could happen to me.
We are fighting for freedom. Sing along, come sing along. We are fighting for freedom. Me brother Ike, everybody around ya. We are fighting for freedom. Sing along, come sing along. We are fighting for freedom. United forces of change, the only way to get a liberation now. United forces of change. All right, listen my lyrics now. Our people complaining night and day. They wonder why they continue to live this way. But I know that things can change someday. If we really want them to change anyway. Africa is a land of abundance, but the African living in efficiency. The leaders want like presidency. We must abandon that silly tendency. Africa rich, but the African poor. Because the leaders, them drunk on power. They run nation like family affair. Citizens suffer, but they don't care. Whether you are black man, whether you are white man, whether you are Chinese or you are Indian, whether you are Christian, whether you are Muslim, whether you are culture or you are Rasta. Atumala wo abajega katabantu balimokufa nanjala betwega tanetuko baba nabajega isobolo kutasensi ya pinjala. I am this Batman from Kamocha. Everything when me I do is all Kamocha, and I'm straight up made in Kamocha. You remember that one time? Listen, I am this Batman from Kamocha. Everything when me I do is all Kamocha, and I'm straight up made in. Yeah man. Big up to all the freedom fighters all over the world. Free Dr. Kizza Besigye. Free Kalanzi. Free Bukenya Tonwizi. Free Olivia Lutaya. Free all the political prisoners. Blessed love. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Appreciate it. One love.
Hello and welcome. From DW's Global Media Forum in Bonn, my name is Karin Helmstaedt. As foundations are being shaken all over the globe, DW Culture has chosen to look to sub-Saharan Africa, where the creative scene is positively booming and attracting increasing international attention. But this incredible wealth of artistry is too often undercut by a lack of funding, a lack of infrastructure, conflict, or even oppressive political regimes. Which means that artists have some very tough decisions to make, to stay or to go. To what extent can creative industries foster change and development in their home countries, and how can they have maximum impact? Well, we've gathered a group of creatives from Africa and the African diaspora to discuss these questions, and these are my guests. Robert Kyagulanyi Sentamu, better known by his stage name Bobi Wine, as we just heard, is singer, musician, activist and politician from Uganda, leader of the National Unity Platform Party, former opposition MP and presidential candidate. According to his Twitter bio, he's just one ghetto child who has something to say through music, and he says that politics is simply too serious a business to leave it to the politicians. Welcome, Bobi, and thank you for being with us. Stella Gaitano is a writer, opinion columnist, and a pharmacist from South Sudan. She's known for her short stories, and her novel Edo's Soul was the first South Sudanese story actually to win the English Pen Writers Translates Award. In March, she fled Sudan to Germany with the help of the German Pen, and she says that art is a living thing. It can't grow in dark rooms and needs space to be freely expressed, accepted, and supported. Thank you for being with us. On my left is Angèle Etoundi Essamba. She's a photographer from Cameroon who lives and works in Amsterdam. With over 200 exhibitions in more than 100 countries, she's one of the most accomplished African photographers of her generation. Best known for her work in black and white and for her strong focus on African women. Africa is her greatest inspiration and, as she believes, a continent with matchless opportunities and where everything is possible. Welcome, Angèle. And last but not least, over here on my right, Ike Nnaebue is an award-winning director and cultural entrepreneur from Lagos in Nigeria. He's now considered one of the champions of the emerging new African cinema, a Nollywood veteran, but his documentary, No U-Turn, just got a special mention award at the Berlinale, Berlin's International Film Festival in early this year. And he says that there is a relationship between migration and the types of films that we've promoted in the past. We look forward to your insights. Ike Nnaebue, a warm welcome. So warm welcome to all of my panelists and to our studio audience. And thanks for a rousing start, Bobi. But over to you, Ike. I'd like to start with you because over 20 years ago, you set out to leave Nigeria to make your fortune in Europe, but you ended up aborting the journey. So just tell us, what was it that made you decide to leave, and why did you change your mind?
It was, I would just say in very simple words, it was economic reasons. I had just finished my apprenticeship, in which I served my master for 7 years. And normally, after you finish your apprenticeship, you're supposed to be given seed money so that you can start your own business. And sometimes it doesn't work out like that. And I just happened to be one of those ones that didn't work out. And I was just about to turn 20, and I had nothing. And the reason why I even started the apprenticeship was so that I can make something out of myself, so I can help my mother and my siblings, because I'd lost my dad when I was 2. And so at the time I was literally confused. I didn't know what to do. And then I heard that it was possible to travel to Europe by road with little or no money, you know, so.
And a long and perilous journey.
Exactly. So I thought it was something that was worth it. And I set out.
You got stopped midway.
Yeah, so we got to Bamako, and someone sat us down with me and my friends and told us that it was quite a very dangerous journey and that a lot of terrible things were happening, you know, at the desert, which we were about to just set out. And I realized that, no, I know I wanted to make money and all that, but I had to be alive to be able to. So I was like, no, this is not what my life, so I stopped. Yeah.
That experience inspired your very first documentary film. I already mentioned the title, No U-Turn. It investigates why young Africans are compelled to risk their lives to make this journey, and it's a very personal film that really manifests our central question, to stay or to go.
26 years ago, I came to this Mile 2 bus park in bustling Lagos along with my friends. Our goal was to cross the Strait of Gibraltar and make our fortunes in Europe.
In No U-Turn, Ike Nnaebue retraces his own path to Europe. On his journey, he meets people who, just as he once did, are trying to leave Africa, but get stranded in different countries along the way. They survive by working odd jobs in restaurants or as street vendors.
Me France.
A film about hope, disappointment, and the enduring dream of Europe. Ike Nnaebue has also made feature films and offers his expertise to aspiring young directors. He's also part of a support network for African filmmakers. No U-Turn, his first documentary, deals with an issue that's still very relevant today. Why do so many young Nigerians embark on such a perilous journey?
What did you learn about young people's motivations today to go and take on that journey?
Well, sadly, 27 years after, it's still the same motivations. It's still basically about economics. It's still basically about people seeking for self-actualization. It's about looking for a place under the sun where you can actually dream. And it's so sad that young people in Africa, especially West Africa, do not feel that there's enough space for them to dream in their home countries. And so that's what I found in the film, and it's really very sad.
I want to pick up that quote that I mentioned from you at the beginning where you talk about the relationship between migration and the type of films that have been promoted in the past. What role has film played in idealizing and nourishing this dream of going to Europe?
Well, so I will speak about Nollywood, the Nigerian film industry. I would say that the sad part of it and how it relates to this conversation is that we've promoted the idea that you just have to have a lot of money to be recognized as a human being. So young people growing up and growing up into these types of narratives feel a lot of pressure, to make money, to make a lot of money, and sometimes people don't really know exactly why they need to make all this money. Because I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I asked her, I said, how much do you really need as a human being to live? And it became very clear that not a lot of money, actually. So yeah, the type of films that we've promoted in the past has created all of these pressures.
Conclusions that have led you to make quite a change of tack in your work with this new documentary. Gender also plays a huge role in the migration narrative, and there's a number of quite surprising scenes in your film, certainly inspired by that. As a male director, I'm just wondering, how tricky was it for you to actually, you're so close to all of your protagonists, how tricky was it for you to actually get these young women to open up and share their stories?
I think that I've had a very great relationship with women, because I was raised by my mother.
By your mother?
Yeah, my father passed when I was 2, so it was my mother. And of course, I had sisters. And growing up and coming up in the industry, I've worked with a lot of female producers, and who actually gave me a chance in the industry. It was a woman that gave me a chance. Shout out to Uche Jumbo. She gave me my first chance. So I've always had that, that ease to work with women, and maybe because I really don't think about gender. I just, I think about the fact that we are all humans, and if anybody is competent enough to vibe at the same level, we work.
But women certainly suffering in very particular ways, and of course a more difficult fate quite often on these journeys. And I'm going to go over to you, Stella Gaitano, because of course the plight of women in war-torn countries is really a major theme in your work, a major theme in your life. You recently came to Germany. Tell us, why did you have to flee Sudan?
Thank you for let me be here with others. Thank you. As people know, Sudan until 2011, it's like split to 2 countries. And I was Sudanese, and then I became a South Sudanese. So if you spend most of your life that to work for your country as a whole, and sharing other, how you can make that change and make that country that you are dreaming about all your life, then suddenly it's split to 2. So your heart is suddenly also split into 2. So that's why I couldn't find myself in South or in North. I still want to be a Sudanese. So that makes my life really very, very difficult to be here or there. And because I was against this idea of we in Africa, we're supposed to unite, not to split again to pieces of countries. Yes, we are respect their destiny. They need to be a whole country, but we're supposed to think about Africa and how it can make us very strong if we are united by some ways. And that was my idea, and I think people not accepted that into Sudan.
So you were under pressure.
So yeah, I was in the pressure here and there, and I couldn't express myself well, and I supposed to keep silence for a long time.
You're trying to communicate a message about Africa. Let's learn a little bit more about Africa, because South Sudan is Africa's newest state. Its independence in 2011 was the culmination of decades of struggle, followed by years of civil war. So to understand this very complex situation, political situation that Stella Gaitano has just described there with its neighbor, with South Sudan, with its neighbor to the north, Sudan, let's have a quick look at this.
The Republic of the Sudan is Africa's third largest country. Its capital is Khartoum. Since independence in 1956, the country has mostly been under military rule. Due to armed conflicts between the government and rebels, sectarian and ethnic violence, many millions have fled. Recurring droughts lead to crop failures. Almost half the population lives below the poverty line. The desolate political and economic situation sparked protests. In 2019, Omar al-Bashir was ousted after 30 years of authoritarian rule. Sharia law was abolished, and women were briefly granted more rights. A glimpse of freedom also for journalists and creatives who were hopeful that a civilian government and reforms might be established. But this phase of democratization didn't last for long. A military coup took place in 2021. Since then, protests for freedom and human rights have taken place nearly every day. The Republic of South Sudan is the world's youngest sovereign state. It achieved independence from Sudan in 2011 after years of struggle. 99% of the population supported independence in a referendum, but their joy was short-lived. The country is divided due to numerous ethnic conflicts. Millions are seeking refuge internally and outside of South Sudan. Disastrous floodings have led to crop failures. More and more people are becoming dependent on food aid. South Sudan is one of the world's poorest countries. It lacks state institutions, especially in the medical and educational sectors. The government has repeatedly been accused of human rights violations, censorship, and corruption. Today, it's widely regarded as a failed state.
You're living between two cultures, really. It's a very, very difficult split, as you've described. The north obviously speaks Arabic. You write in Arabic, and yet the south is English speaking. Just tell us how that is for you to...
Yeah, because long time away, our war is about political issues, about cultural issues, and about identity, and about all this stuff. And unfortunately, our political use this huge diversity in Africa. They use it to make conflict between us, to isolate us as a people from each other. So sometimes you are not going to be proud that you are from this region or that region. And when you get in between two cultures, like you are Africa, but you raise up in totally Arab region or the north side of Sudan, because the Arabic is the official language, so you raise up there, so that will be your language too. Mm-hmm. But sometimes people use that like you are now accepting the culture of the enemy or something like that. So they don't want you to be like you are now using the language of enemy. So that's why make it so difficult for us.
As a divisive force.
Yeah.
Thank you for those insights. Now, some 4 million people fled the civil war in South Sudan. Approximately 1 million of them actually found refuge in neighboring Uganda. And that is, of course, the home of our next distinguished guest.
They call him the ghetto president, Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu.
African freedom fighters.
Better known as the musician Bobi Wine. Born in 1982, his lyrics about freedom and self-determination have made him the voice of Uganda's youth. Almost 80% of the population is under 30. In 2017, Bobi Wine became involved in politics. He opposed President Yoweri Museveni and his government, who arrest, torture, or make their political opponents disappear. Bobi Wine himself was brutally attacked multiple times and arrested. Nevertheless, he ran for president in 2021. His campaign, burdened by COVID-19 rules, was targeted with arrests, attacks, and violence. Despite accusations of election rigging, Yoweri Museveni, who has ruled the country for over 35 years, won the election yet again. But Bobi Wine won't give up. He continues to be politically engaged and uses his music to fight against social injustices, corruption, and abuse of power.
We just cannot continue to live this way. Killing one another never makes no sense. Change your ways, we unite, realize we are one. We must look out for one another.
Social injustice, corruption, and abuse of power. Bobi Wine, the Nigerian Afrobeat pioneer and activist Fela Kuti once said music is the weapon of the future. And yet, you decided at some point in 2017 that music wasn't quite enough. What was the tipping point that made you decide to go into politics?
Thank you very much. I'm very glad you mentioned Fela Kuti. And I hope his spirit can engulf me now so that I can re-say the things that he said when I was only a baby. Leadership. We get inspiration from different parts of the world. What I'm doing has been done before by people like Fela Kuti and the rest. Indeed, music is not just for entertainment. As a matter of fact, after a bad experience about 10 or 15 years ago, I decided that my music was no longer going to be entertainment, but edutainment, because much as that it had benefited me, it had to benefit those with whom I share the plight, the ghetto people where I come from. So I got involved in the politics because I had been talking about the issue for so long, and I thought it was about time to act about them and to also lead by example.
That's wonderful. Edutainment, as you call it. So songs with a political message. How do you actually combine those two roles, pop star and politician?
Well, it is the same. First and foremost, I don't want to define politics or the word politician as the usual cliche, because politics is everyday life. Politics is the price you buy bread, it's the price you buy sugar. It determines whether you're free or not. In Uganda, actually, it determines whether you live or you don't live. So for a long time, our people had been disconnected from the way they were governed, myself inclusive, until this day when I was at the height of my musical success. I was just walking out of a club and got beat up by a security operative because I was showing off as if I did not know the country had owners. So I thought that I should move into where the policies are made. For a very long time, the politicians were making policies that were benefiting themselves and oppressing the ghetto people. And for a long time, we were singing about these issues, but it was just common singing, until I said that since the parliament had refused to come to the ghetto had to go to the parliament. And that's the move that I took, to go into parliament to get that formal platform to say the things that I had been saying in my music, but also to inspire others to do the same.
Okay. Protest of any kind, obviously very dangerous work in Uganda. You suffered incredible violence in the lead up to your presidential campaign. Lots of intimidation politics. You were placed under house arrest after the election. What is your situation now and the situation for artists like yourself?
I hope you mean what is our situation, not my situation. Yeah. So while I have the opportunity to be on such international platforms, while I have this attention, I would want to say that many other Ugandans with whom we face this terrible situation don't have this opportunity. So it's about us. The situation continues to be terrible. Uganda continues to be under the tight military group of General Yoweri Museveni. Who took power when I was only 4 years, and now I'm 40. And there's no sign that there will be change. We don't only want change for the sake of it, but we want to return power to the people. That's why they call us the People Power Movement. And we say people power is our power. We want a situation in Uganda, like it is in all developed countries, where leaders are servants of the people and the people are the true masters, where leaders fear to do things that will oppress the people because the people will kick them out. So that is the whole agenda.
Where leaders fear even an identity symbol like your red beret, which has actually been banned in Uganda, as you've told me.
Well, this red beret, like the word freedom, like my name, like my face, has been banned. Not on any law papers.
Not officially.
But, you know, because General Museveni and his son just don't want that. You know, but we always want to focus not on our plight, not on our weaknesses, not on the bad situation that we're going through, but on the light that we see ahead of the tunnel. We focus on what we are going to achieve, because we know we're going to achieve it. We are many, there's massive enlightenment. So while the red beret is banned, while the word freedom is banned, while even any kind of protest is banned, we know that no dictator has ever, you know, defeated the people. We know that it has always been the rise and fall. There's never the rise and rise of such and such a dictator. No, it's the rise and fall. So now that we saw the rise, we are working day and night for the fall of the dictatorship.
Thank you very much for those words, Bobi Wine. Our next guest uses visual language to transform ideas of identity of African women. Angèle Etoundi Essamba, and we can possibly take a little look at her work here, is based in the Netherlands and currently showing at the Venice Biennale in the Cameroonian pavilion. Beautiful images here. She's particularly known for her black and white work. African and European themes mixed. Angèle, you left Cameroon at the age of 10. When was the prise de conscience that you had this attraction?
Alors la vraie prise de conscience, je crois, a été.
So the real realization, I think, was when I realized that in the Dutch landscape in which I was evolving, I didn't find myself. I didn't recognize myself in the images that were around me. And I decided to make my own images. And I say make because I'm making a difference between taking pictures and making pictures. For me, photography...
It's a construction, it's a composition for you.
Yes, that's why the composition is very important. And at the same time as I made this choice, so after having studied at the Dutch School of Photography, I decided to put the woman at the heart of my work very early on. The black woman. The black woman. Why did I do this? Because I wanted to break with all the stereotypes that existed around the bad representation, not only of Africa, but also of the African woman. And I wanted to show that I was reappropriating this black female body and showing that it was a body like any other body, a body that spoke, that questioned, that denounced, that spoke of fulfillment, of injury, of fragility, but also, above all, of strength and of resilience. And that's how I started photography.
C'est ainsi donc que j'ai commencé la photographie.
Your work has been exhibited all over the world. It's recently even been included in the permanent collection of the MoMA in New York, so congratulations on that. I'm just interested because you have very much a Pan-African focus as opposed to a focus on your own particular culture. Is that deliberate?
Of course, because I'm African, but also because I believe that for me, the fact of having left very early, the distance brought me even closer to my continent, to Mother Earth, and that made... Well, photography allowed me to reconnect with Africa. Photography also allowed me to reconnect with myself. Maybe not as a 100% African, but as a woman of the world who lives, I don't like to say between two worlds, but rather really with one foot in Africa, one foot in the West. And that for me is a huge privilege, because I think I can do a lot here, being here for Africa.
I just want to open up to the rest of our panelists, because to have your thoughts on what role art and artists can play as an engine for social change. Ike, as a filmmaker, how does that apply?
Well, I think that over the course of history, human existence, artists have sort of been the avant-garde. We've provided the roadmap for society, and I don't see that role changing. I think that as artists, it is our job to point our societies to the right direction. So I strongly still believe that as artists we have very big responsibility, to sort of show the way. Part of our work is like holding a mirror to the society and then also pointing to the direction that we should go.
And reflecting the difficulties. You've also spoken of quite the difficulties. Bobi, back over to you, because Uganda is also making its debut in Venice this year. Your thoughts, for instance, I'm sure governments to a certain degree are finally realizing what an important platform that can be. It's a question, of course, as to who gets selected. But your thoughts on the role of art and artists for social change and for sort of feeding these dreams of a national identity that is self-confident.
Thank you. I will not differ so much from Ike. Indeed, like it has been said by our forefathers, that artists are the mirrors of society. Mm-hmm. We are the reflections of what's happening in society, both vocally and visually. So we are the spokespeople of society. But in the same way, we can be the chief misrepresenters of society. I'm glad you mentioned it, that recently governments are noticing the power of art, and particularly in Uganda, there's a very big budget that is put aside to compromise artists and have them misrepresent the voices of society. And you can blame that to the rise of artists like myself. Mm-hmm. Now there's fear that maybe sooner or later another artist is going to pop up and do the same or even more. So the power of art has been realized. It has been realized by the forces of evil. So I think it's high time the forces of good also realize how best and how important art is and use it to forward what's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stella, your thoughts?
Yeah, all the time I said that art is a soft power. Yes. And it is going on slowly, and it's making change all the time. And we have those who are the dictatorship in our country. Whenever we need to make any event or to organize for any event, it's related to culture, so we have to take permission from the security. Mm-hmm. And that's why they have that fears from the culture and from the art, because it's changed minds of people, it's raised awareness, it's made people ask questions, big questions about themselves. It's let the people that having that critical thinking about their situation, and they can analyze what is going on here. So, and our leadership and our dictatorship don't like people to make that raise up of their awareness, so maybe to resist them. So that's why they are against art. Yeah.
Ike, just another question to you, because from your point of view, is it being taken seriously enough in a place like Nigeria? I mean, how important is recognition at international events, for instance, like you had yourself at the Biennale, at the Berlinale in Berlin, or the Biennale, the Frankfurt Book Fair? Mm-hmm. Do those kinds of events and the recognition that you can achieve there, do they generate more support at home?
Yeah, they generate a lot of support at home. Again, the job for us as creatives from Africa, from West Africa, especially from Nigeria, is to show what is possible, to show that people can dream from wherever they are. You know, I was born in my village, you know, pretty much I left my mother when I was 13, you know, and if I can dream, I think it's important to promote it so that other people can learn as well that they can also dream.
Learning to dream. Angèle, we've seen an incredible surge of interest in contemporary African art in recent years. How much is it benefiting artists in Africa from what you can see? And how important is art, in your opinion, to communicate a modern, more differentiated picture of Africa, to get away perhaps from the colonialist narratives, the Eurocentric narratives that so many of us know?
It's true that for the last 20 years or so, we've seen an effervescence of contemporary African art. As I was saying earlier, through biennials, art fairs, and all sorts of events and debates. It is very important. It is very important because I think that it is really through art that change comes. Whether it is music, literature, visual arts, plastic arts. Art does a lot of things, and we can see more and more that if it is not yet sufficient, that we have more and more support in terms of production, distribution, and representation. For example, I have a gallery that represents me in Lagos. It was thanks to this gallery that we worked together to have my art acquired by the Museum of Modern Art in New York. So things are happening. And that's very important for us too, who are in Europe, in the West, to maintain links with the artists of the continent. Because many leave. It's true that when you leave an art school or when you finish your course, any course, you need to leave. You want to leave. But I think that now, with the means of new technologies, you can take part in international dialogue even if you don't leave. The most important thing is that the works travel. The artists' works travel. So it's very, very important in any case to support this scene, this artistic effervescence.
I love that comment that you made about the works actually traveling, and maintaining that connection with Africa. We'll get to the impact of technology in just a couple of minutes. But I'd like to, after speaking to my four panelists here on the stage for quite some time now, we do have another special guest in the audience who is no stranger to our Global Media Forum, and I'd like to go over and see him now and get his thoughts. And I'd like you to give a warm round of applause and welcome to Akinbode Akinbiyi. He's one of Africa's best-known photographers. Born in Oxford with Nigerian roots, a self-professed wandering ambassador between cultures. And this is really very much a philosophy you can see here in the pictures of his work, behind his work. He's also a recipient, we're very proud of this, of Germany's prestigious Goethe Medal back in 2016. And here he is next to me, Akinbode. It's so nice to see you again. Thank you for joining us here in Bonn. I'd just like to ask you, what are your thoughts after listening to your colleagues here on the panel about the impact that art can have, its potential for social change today in Africa?
My thoughts are really very have been revitalized, so to speak. So I'm very, very happy. All
by what you've heard today.
Yeah, really very, very good. Also your questions too as well. And yeah, we are moving. It's a moving forward and hopefully upward as well. And things will improve eventually. moving forward.
Things are moving, and Angèle mentioned the works traveling. This is a wonderful sort of an image, because you exhibit all over the world. Your works travel widely, but so do you yourself. You teach, you curate widely. You were just on the jury for a photography prize yesterday. What are the dreams and aspirations of young artists that you encounter around the world in your classes? How do you try to inspire them?
They want to achieve, and we the mentors, the teachers, the facilitators, we really try to encourage them. It's for many very, very tough, huh? I mean, especially as a creative person, a young person. You've earned very little, but we really encourage them, and it's step by step moving forward. One thing I really want to stress: you have to be passionate about what you're doing,
which you are,
and also. They should do research. So you can literally be creative about anything you want it to be. Cooking, photographing, butterflies, but do it with a real passion and with real intent and research. And then you come forward gradually.
And are they actually, most of the people that you're talking about, for instance, if you've got some people in your mind, are they hoping to make it at home? I mean, they want to achieve, or are they being forced with this tough decision of... Do I have to leave? Do I have to go somewhere else where there's possibly better conditions?
The majority are staying.
Okay.
Yeah. This is something people, I don't think, fully realize.
So these messages are getting through.
Oh, definitely. And most human beings stay where they were born, or in their region, on their continent. So this is very, very much the case. And human beings are like plants, so we have roots. And the roots are very much where you were born and where you grew up. So we grow up. And then... Again, and now it's much, much easier, especially in the digital age and social media and so on. So you can really do your research well. It's so very important to be very grounded, and then up you grow.
Now, you're someone, you talk about research. Research is really your daily bread. You're constantly traveling all over the place. The capital cities and metropolises of Africa are really your stomping ground. Interest in contemporary art, as I just mentioned earlier, from Africa has dramatically increased, also within Africa itself. You're so often in places like Bamako, Lagos, Kigali. Can you tell me, do you see positive developments there in terms of the actual
yes, I do.
Infrastructure and support for art on location?
I do see positive things to encourage younger artists. In some countries, it's much less. In other countries, it's more.
We're talking about a huge continent. We've had this trouble before.
So I was just last year in November in Kampala, in Bobi Wine's hometown. And there you notice that the encouragement is not very, very strong, especially for those who really want to be creative and are critical of what is happening on the ground.
Exactly.
But it's growing. It's a constant growing. It's a push and pull all the time, and trying to move forward and upwards as well.
And there's growing inspiration there, is what I'm hearing from you.
Very much, very much. One thing I must say is the music scene is very, very dynamic and vital all over the continent. So well done, Bobi. Really, very well done.
Thank you very much for those insights. Akinbode Akinbiyi, and a nod to Bobi Wine. Well, one infrastructure that has achieved global importance and, of course, acclaim is the Nigerian film industry. It's better known as Nollywood. And we'll take a quick virtual trip to Lagos just to learn a little bit more about it.
Lagos, the heart of Nigeria's film branch. Nollywood, as it's called, is the world's second largest film industry after India's Bollywood. With stories from people's daily lives. Whether it's feature films or complex animations, Nollywood has long spread out from the African market. The big players enable them to reach an international audience. Netflix has shifted its focus to Nigerian series and blockbusters and advertises for Nollywood productions.
This is our reality.
This is Nigeria.
Ike is looking at me. He knows the next question is coming to him. Streaming giants have discovered the massive potential of the African market. We are all aware of this. Anybody who has an Amazon Prime or Netflix account, sounds like a good time to be a filmmaker in Nigeria.
Yes. Nigeria is still an emerging market in all facets, but it's actually a wonderful time to be a filmmaker right now in Nigeria. There's so much that is available now. First of all, the social media, for instance, has kind of democratized filmmaking, storytelling, using motion picture has sort of taken a totally different dimension. And I've been studying it for quite a bit, and I noticed that in the nearest future, user-generated content is actually going to lead the way, because with most people having smartphones and people are able, and part of what we've been involved is teaching how to use smartphones to tell stories. So basically, smartphone filmmaking, it's something that
This is something you're actually giving workshops then, so you're actually trying to influence it. We're going to get back to social media in just a second, but you are working with many young Nigerian directors. What kinds of stories do they want to tell? So, the thing is, people, when they're growing up and they're watching what older generations, the kinds of stories that the older generations are telling, and there's this tendency to want to pander towards that type of stories. But we are saying, take a pause and really think about it and find your own voice and tell the kinds of stories that are important to you as an individual, not just what you see on TV. So we're encouraging people to look at other stories. For instance, Nollywood has been big on stories, that has to do with, for instance, money rituals. And then we've told a lot of stories about love, boy meet girl. But this period, we are saying, can we look more deeply and tell stories about everyday heroes? Everyday life, right? So there's a woman at Yaba Market who sells pepper and tomato, right? And she's been doing this for the past 15 years. And through this small business, she's been able to raise graduates, and she's now having doctors in the family and lawyers. And we're not telling those kind of stories. And we're encouraging people to tell those type of stories, because those are the stories that show the magic of the people. Yeah. Yeah. The magic of the people, Bobi Wine. You also sometimes have experiences on the street in Kampala that end up in your song lyrics. Yeah. Tell us about that. Thank you. My music is both about myself, my experiences, but also the experiences of others, and also imaginations. Not everything that I sing about, I've seen. Some of it, other people have seen it. It's just a reflection of myself and those that I think should be projected through my music. The magic of the people, the magic of social media that Ike just mentioned. I know that it has made a huge difference. Can you tell us just what social media has meant for the impact of your art in your particular situation? Well, talking about social media, it has been actually the major outlet. Because I'm talking to you, I'm standing here as an abolished artist back home, where my music is abolished. I'm not supposed to stage a concert, and neither is my music supposed to play on radio or TV. But social media has been our biggest platform of communication. Unfortunately, also Facebook is now banned in Uganda and is switched off since the election. However, somehow, the young people especially, due to their creativity, they managed to bypass the ban on Facebook and use the VPN and now other platforms. So social media is not just a major platform, but the only way that young people communicate, since other medias are gagged. And that certain forms of art can actually get out there and reach your audience. Yeah, social media has transformed art. Yeah. Stella, your work has been hailed by critics, but also infrastructure and social media a little bit difficult in Sudan. But you've been giving a voice to this situation of exile and showing the realities of the one country to the other. And living in exile here in Germany, I know that your activism is even more urgent. So before we actually just get your opinion on that and how social media might be helping you, let's have a quick look at what you're doing.
Stella Gaitano started writing in elementary school. She writes about war, fleeing, being displaced, but also about hope and great expectations for her home. Stella has been fighting for freedom and democracy in Sudan and South Sudan for many years. With other like-minded people, she founded initiatives to support the lives of displaced persons and victims of violence with food donations, but also with book donations. Stella is convinced that with the right words, the pen is mightier than the sword. Since the project started in 2020, 15,000 books have been donated. When she fled Khartoum in early 2022, Stella herself donated around 700 books. The Sudanese capital was no longer safe. She had been threatened and arrested multiple times. Through the Writers in Exile scholarship program by the Writers Association PEN, she has been living in Kamen, a little town in North Rhine-Westphalia, since March. But her children are still with her ex-husband in Sudan. She hopes that she can soon be reunited with her 3 boys in Germany.
I think every mother here in the audience is feeling with you right now, Stella. I want to ask you, how tough is this situation for you in exile as a mother, but also as an artist who has this ever-intensifying inner call to change things?
Yeah. What we are doing, it's really we're supposed to be strong because we know the consequences of that. And we really have clear vision about what will happen if we are doing this or that. So, like, we were prepared enough about that we're ready, though anything could happen. And also, I many times make my children also ready that I'm a mother in risk. So anytime anything could happen to me, so you're supposed to depend on yourself. And that made me strong and made them also strong. So now we are, yes, going in very tough situation, but we can just cope with that.
Your children are very, very strong indeed. I mean, they even encouraged you actually to get out while you could.
Yeah, and they encouraged me, Mom, don't think about us. We will be okay, so you can go and be safe somewhere. And also, what I'm really lost now, it's my work with people underground. I was an activist, being with people on the ground and helping people and have that initiative. So, because I'm thinking that we're supposed to break this chain somewhere to help Bobi to become that president we are dreaming about in Africa, we're supposed to work with the generation that can help Bobi someday. So that's why I'm thinking about how we can help generation by tools that they're supposed to make that self-education, to be aware, to be open-minded, to be strong in their soul and their mind. So dreaming about countries, it's not enough. We have to work, and we have to build ourselves first, then we can build our countries. That's why.
Definitely support there. Just one more quick question, because you talked about your initiatives. What happens now? How can you continue to support your various initiatives from here? You have 3 years now to be in Germany, to basically reorient.
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah, fortunately, when I make this initiative, I was working with people. And they are really very great volunteers. And also I did that with them, that I'm not the leader that need to be stick on on them and like doing that and doing
your hands
everyone.
off.
Yeah, I told them that every one of you is a leader, and this is initiative. It's not mine. It is not with my name, and it is for all people. It is for you and for you, and also the great people of Sudan. They are like support this initiative by continued donation of these books. So that's why this initiative is not connected with me, but it's connected with the people, and they're willing because they believe that change will come through education and self-education.
So you're very much an enabler, Stella Gaitano.
Yeah, and I support them from here.
Change is going to come, and a lot of support I'm hearing there from another African country for the work that you're doing, Bobi. The dream that you personify. And as an artist who has swapped the musical stage for the political one, Bobi Wine, of course, taps into a very long tradition of music and protest in Africa. And in many, many countries today, new generations of artists are giving voice to the grievances and aspirations of hundreds of millions of people.
Africa's protest music is outspoken, diverse, and packs a punch.
The youth got what it takes to make the place a better place. We sick of the crumbs demanding for a better plate. For heaven's sake,
it's not only about having a say politically, it's about societal changes. The Gambian rapper Killa Ace speaks out about corruption, misgovernment, and youth unemployment.
We spend more than we earn.
And if you look at all of these young people, like in contrast to those that are taking the Mediterranean Sea to go to Europe, and you realize that the young people really do want to do something. I believe that my music could inspire them to keep on believing in themselves.
In Guinea, Sister Lessa raps against female genital mutilation, which affects around 97% of women in her home country. In neighboring Mali, Ami Yerevolo is standing up against the patriarchy.
When I rap, I try to tell about all the difficulties I went through and about the things in my society that influenced me, the problems when I speak about children's rights or violence against women, for example. I speak about those Malian realities around me, which are also often African realities.
The South African rapper Hemmelbessem speaks about confronting the colonial past and wants to inspire others to be proud of their heritage. MC Kappa, aka Katrogi Nanga Luamba, grew up in a slum in Angola's capital, Luanda. He studied philosophy, and he uses his songs to protest for democracy in an authoritarian state. Under ex-President Dos Santos, his concerts were forbidden.
My dream is that the country changes. I don't want to emigrate. I want to stay here in Angola and work constructively toward the betterment of my country. I would like to have an Angola with happier people and people who are proud to live here.
Even after Dos Santos, MCK is still heavily critical of the government and is calling for a better Angola with freedom and social justice.
Bobi Wine, I know that your family has wished you would do it a number of times, but never any thoughts of leaving Uganda? To work elsewhere?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
Yes, because it's the best way to guarantee that I'll stay alive. But no, because it will be a betrayal. Betrayal of myself.
Your people and your fans.
And my people. And it would not make practical sense at the end of the day, because the tyrants that rule some countries in Africa are empowered with national budgets. They can pick you from any part of the world and kill you, and there are very many stories of the same. So other than making it hard for my people, they'd rather kill me from home. I don't want to make it expensive for my family to carry my body from wherever and take it back home. Uganda is where I'm born, and it's where I'm going to buried at the end of the day. And my work is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your work is there. If you were to win the next election, what would you do to promote culture? What role would you give it in society?
Well, I would just ensure that there's freedom. Mm-hmm. If there's freedom, culture can flourish. You know, culture, like all other trades, they just need freedom. You know, art is not asking for anything from government. If the government cannot help art, the government should just let art be. And art will be.
Yes.
Ike, I can hear you feeling those words. You talked about finding a way to let people dream in their own country. What has your conclusion been? I know you're creating a sequel to No U-Turn. Tell us what your conclusions have been. What are you doing?
Well, so we're creating a sequel, and the sequel is basically trying to say, for the people who actually eventually make it to Europe, the question is it really worth it? Mm-hmm. And is Europe that paradise that they dreamt of? And so that's the question for the sequel. But what we're doing, based on what we found from the film that we've made, is, so currently I'm founded a network of creative spaces that we're building across Africa and some select places in the world. And the idea is to encourage, again, to create enabling platforms for Africans so that we can dream in our homelands. Nobody really wants to leave their family, you know, what they know, to go into the unknown if they actually can find an enabling environment. Of course, migration is as old as life itself. People will continue to migrate, whether, you know, intercontinental, whether international, whether even in countries. Mm-hmm. But the idea is let people migrate because they want to migrate and not because they are being forced.
Because they're being forced.
By economic circumstances or political issues and all of that. The young people of Africa, we are tired of all of these old narratives about Africa. Like Bobi said, there's no need to keep running away from the continent. We want to stay in the continent and fight it. You know, how many of us are they going to kill? You know, we want to fight it. I have 3 boys right now, and they're growing up. I wonder the kind of Nigeria that they would grow into. And I would be very ashamed of myself if my boys grow up and meet the same kind of things that we're complaining about. And if they, thank you. You know, and I really fear for that day where they will ask questions and it would be like, Daddy, what did you do about this? You know, did you just talk about it? And so we've stopped talking about things. We've folded our, you know, sleeves, and we're in the trenches. We're trying to make it work. It's not easy, but we know that we can. Again, the magic of the people. We just want to awaken the magic of the people and get these things done, basically.
Well, we're supposed to work for future because really it's a shame. And I would like to say that we spend a lot of time in Africa because they didn't give us chance to look for the world problems. We just focus on our daily, our yearly problems about conflict, all this stuff happening in Africa. We need really to lift out, and Africa will really contribute to the world problems. So we're looking for that. We need really to contribute to what is happening in the world and helping humanity in all the world. Yeah.
Shaping tomorrow now is the motto of our Global Media Forum, and we've heard today from 5 people about the real potential and the boundless energy of that art, for art to impact society and to give young people a perspective such that they can actually have the choice of whether to stay or whether to stay in their countries and not be forced to leave. Thanks to all of my panelists here for being here today. Angèle, Bobi Wine, Stella Gaitano, and Ike over here on my right, to Akinbode in the audience. And we're going to leave you with the sounds of our ghetto president here, because I seem to think somebody has delivered an instrument, Bobi. I'm just going to get up and... We don't get you here every day, and we certainly don't take it for granted that we can have you here with us.
Okay.
Bobi Wine, ladies and gentlemen.
I will say united forces will change, the only way to get a liberation. United forces of change, the artists come together as one. I say united forces of change, the only way to get the freedom we want. United forces of change, all of us come together as one. Our people complaining night and day, they wonder why we continue to live this way. I know that things can change someday, if we really want it to change anyway. Uganda, land of abundance, but Ugandans living in deficiency. Sudan, land of abundance, but the Sudanese living in deficiency. Cameroon, land of abundance, Cameroonian living in deficiency. The leaders want life presidency, we must abandon the silly tendency.